Hello and welcome, fellow digital soldiers, to True Reporting. It is the 11th of July, and on today's podcast, we will be covering underground tunneling. A lot of stuff I've been researching since the past earthquakes we had a couple weeks ago, and it just gets deeper and deeper, literally and physically. But guys, there is underground cities, the elite are waiting for an Agenda 21 type scenario. They're awaiting something that can be the end all to humanity, and they want a way out. And I believe that there are civilizations possibly right underneath our feet. But before we get into this, my friends, would you please welcome my new sponsor, MyPatriotSupply.com. Hey guys, these natural disasters and geoengineered storms are nothing to play around with. People are never prepared before or even after these types of situations, but you can prepare now. I trust and use My Patriot Supply for my food storage, and you should too. You can save $62 right now off the regular price of this 2-week emergency food kit when you go to my special website, preparewithtruereporting.com. It includes breakfast, lunches, and dinners that last up to 25 years in storage, and My Patriot Supply ships fast and discreetly right to your door. Act now so you know you are prepared, and save $62 with preparewithtruereporting.com. That's preparewithtruereporting.com. All right, guys, it's great to have you aboard. Let's go ahead and hop into it. This is True Reporting. So this is from the Chans a couple weeks ago, and I wanted to share it with you. And it says, from the National AWS China Lake provides and maintains land, facilities, and other assets that support the Navy's research, development, and acquisitions, testing and evaluation, the RDAT&E, of cutting-edge weapons systems for the warfighter installation information. The NAWS China Lake is located in the western Mojave Desert region of California, approximately 150 miles north of Los Angeles. The installation is the Navy's largest single land holding, representing 85% of the Navy's land for RDAT&E use, and 38% of the Navy's land holdings worldwide. In total, its 2 ranges and main site cover more than 1.1 million acres, an area larger than the state of Rhode Island. So you're probably asking yourself, why, Thomas? Why is the Navy out in the middle of the desert? Then we scroll up here and we see, what the F is this? This is from Google Earth. This is the epicenter right here. This is where the earthquake took place. And then we see this smoothed out, legitimate, complete circle. So this is an old article, but it ties in directly with what we are talking about. And it says here, California coast reveals an underwater entrance to an alien base. Again, take it for what it's worth, but from the rabbit holes that we've been down, is it so outlandish to think that this couldn't be possible? So again, this is an underwater 3D version of what is, I believe, underneath that spot. A huge submerged underwater entrance has been discovered off the Malibu, California coast at Point Doom. This entrance has been at the forefront of UFO watchers' list. They have been looking for the shelter for at least the past 40 years. It says here, underwater alien base found. The structure is 1.3 miles by 2.4 miles wide and about 6.66 miles from land. That's a weird number. The opening between and the support columns is about almost 2,800 feet wide and 630 feet tall. It is possible that the structure also has a nuclear bomb-proof ceiling that seems to be around 500 feet thick. This location was found by Maxwell, Dale Romero, and Jimmy Church, conspiracy theorists. Remember, that is what the CIA likes to label people. And network leaders. The supposed base has been a target of the conspiracy communities, when hundreds of UFO and USO sightings and many photographers of the sightings in this area. Until now, there was no hope of finding the entrance. The entrance is large enough that could be housing nuclear-sized submarines and massive USO ships. California is usually much more famous for those who reside in it, not for its alien occurrences. Sources show, however, that California and the surrounding desert-like areas have a high concentration of alien activity. The fact that this interest is on the coast of California is no surprise. To those who are familiar with the sightings and abductions, this area is riddled with them. This discovery is not surprising to those familiar with the situation, but it is, however, mildly terrifying. With an entrance that large and the built-in bomb-proof walls, the real question is what is hidden inside. Also, the fact that extraterrestrials' life felt the need to shelter themselves from humans is terrifying. They may be working with the United States government, but under what means? The technology that they have is unimaginable to common human minds and is only sane to wonder what they might be hiding. All right, guys, here's a better look at it. Remember, this is only 6.66 miles, such a strange number from the coast. This is underwater. You can see the coast here. It's right outside of the shore. General vicinity. Naval Air Stations Point Mugu is a former United States Naval Air Station that operated from 1942 to 2000 in California. In 2000, it merged with the nearby Naval Construction Battalion Center, Port Hueneme, to form Naval Base Ventura County, NBVC. At Point Mugu, NBVC operates 2 runways and encompasses a 36,000-mile range. Naval Base Ventura County says here, NBVC is a premier naval installation composed of 3 operating facilities at Point Mugu, Point Hueneme, and San Nicolas Island, strategically located in a non-encroached coastal area of Southern California. NBVC is a key element in the Department of Defense infrastructure because of its superior geographical size, the deep underwater marine base. Wow. Yeah, so I guess it can go that way too. A dumb. And it gives the coordinates right here. So we're talking about, remember, this is right there where these earthquakes took place. Literally not even 50 miles from where it took place. Again, here is a better look for you as we can see how close this is to the shore, going right in. Right? It's wide enough that you can have nuclear submarines go in, also housing probably tons of people under there. Who knows what lives underneath in these military bases, these underground military bases. It's quite interesting to say the least. It all started in the 18th century with the Scotsman named James Clerk Maxwell. He was a mathematical genius, and his work led to the development of quantum physics, which later led to Einstein's relativity. Maxwell's equations linked electricity and magnetism, and he discovered other waves that were higher than the normal Hertzian electromagnetic waves. They are positioned at right angles coming off the electromagnetic wave and are omnidirectional, whereas normal Hertzian electromagnetic waves are only measurable with normal equipment and travel in a straight line. They are also called gravitic waves because they belong to the gravitational field. Please see the glossary for the other names of scalar waves. We're very familiar with scalar waves, right? Maxwell's electromagnetic spectrum went higher than our 3D physical reality and into hyperspace, where the fine, indiscernible scalar waves exist. Maxwell said they flowed in the ether and /hyperspace. Scalar waves are so fine that they are only 1/100th of a millionth of a square centimeter in width, hence finer than X-ray and gamma rays. They can also be manipulated into various types of modes and frequencies. When Maxwell died, his work was interpreted by 3 experts, including Hertz, who set the foundation for physics, and they decided any wave that went beyond what could be measured with an instrument of that time was mystical, therefore worthless. According to Tom Bearden, standard physics from then on as a discipline contained 22 errors. Nikola Tesla, a Yugoslavia genius who became a U.S. citizen in 1891, carried on with Maxwell's work. Tesla worked for Thomas Edison, who invented direct current, while Tesla himself invented alternating current, but the two men didn't get along well and parted ways. Tesla started up laboratories on Long Island and in Colorado Springs and learned how to harness scalar waves from one transmitter to another without using any wires. He received partial financial backing from J.P. Morgan, who owned the new electricity projects. But Morgan wasn't interested in losing all of his electricity business by allowing people to tap into the vacuum of pure energy, hyperspace, to get their own, what is now termed free energy, for no cost. At that time, Edison needed a plant 10 stories high, taking up an entire city block to supply electricity to 1 square mile of customers. Incarnated ET says, I think a possibility of how that area is being accessed is from the submarine canyons that are below California. If there is that type of action happening, why does the Navy have a desert compound? Because the tunnels come from the Pacific coast of California under that shelf. Exactly. And we can see here with 3D mapping, oceanside submarine canyons. This is the entrance, and you can see it making its way up to the coast, right? Oceanside going in. But wait, there's more. And we can all remember this post from Trump. Remember when the MSM assumed he was referring to the Democratic debates? Think multiple meanings. Boring. More so, right? They're boring holes within the sides of mountains. They're boring holes into the shelf, the coastal shelf. And they're bringing in nuclear submarines, it looks like. I mean, why else would the Navy have a base in the middle of the desert? It doesn't add up. EQ, tunnels up and down California into Nevada and China Lake, where they have a 1 million acre base. Where's the water? In the tunnels, under the shelf, dug by boring machines. Boring can dig tunnels 7 miles long a day. I've seen testimony by people who speak of elaborate tunnels throughout the world, connecting vast areas together and whereby high-speed travel is employed. Of course, this gets into speculation of who, what, but maybe DJT is collapsing these tunnels in on them. So many possibilities. From Jeffrey Smith from 2017 says, look under Phoenix. I worked in tunnels under the highways there in the city, large enough to drive 2 semis side by side. We are installing explosion-proof lighting 6 stories deep in rainwater tunnels. This was in '99. Tunnels ran for miles. Also changed a pump in a pump pit at an intersection because you wouldn't want flooded rain tunnels, end quote. Right? Because there's people down there. That's what he's talking about. Flooded rain tunnels means people die within these tunnels. He's not talking about drainage by any means. Here we go, guys. This is going to bring it all full circle. So the traumatization and torture of a victim. The basis for the success of the Monarch Mind Control Program is that different personalities or personality parts called alters can be created who do not know each other, but who can take the body at different times. The amnesia walls that are built by traumas form a protective shield of secrecy that protects the abusers from being found out and prevents the front personalities who hold the body much of the time to know how their system of alters is being used. If you don't know what alters is, please look into that. It's almost like breaking down the body. It's called fracturing, You fracture the body down and almost makes it kind of multiple personalities, but they're actually different types of entities that are using your body, these different levels of your mind. It's very intense. And you can talk, there are white papers on this from the CIA, deep state papers, that they even use this in the military. They've tried these things. It's in movies. Remember, Hollywood knows more than we think they know. The shield of secrecy allows cult members to live and work around other people and remain totally undetected. The front altars can be wonderful Christians, and the deeper altars can be the worst type of satanic monster imaginable, a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde effect. A great deal is at stake in maintaining the secrecy of the intelligence agency or the occult group which is controlling the slave. The success rate of this type of programming is very high, but when it fails, the failures are discarded through death. Each trauma and torture serves as a purpose. A great deal of experimentation and research went into finding out what can and can't be done. Charts were made showing how much torture a given body weight at a given age can handle without death. Now, this is why the Nazis did all those strange concentration camp experiments, where they tested how quickly people would freeze or die from various traumas. It was for mind control. The abusers are very specific and scientific in their torture. A lab technician with a clipboard walks around monitoring the E for the children when they received their initial traumas. Heart monitors are closely watched. Still, many children died from the programming. The programmers learned that when a child rolled up in a fetal position, it had given up the will to live. They learned to time how fast this would occur to get an idea of how far to push the child. Parents in eastern United States were taken to Harvard University for training to teach them how much trauma they could give their children at home before they would die. After the children got back from their initial programming, they were to receive daily traumas to keep them disassociative, right? The initial splits and initial programming done at China Lake, California, the exact spot where these earthquakes took place. The primary or initial torture for many children in western U.S. was done at China Lake, California. Again, this is where the earthquakes were taking place. Was Trump breaking up these underground military bases where they may be doing experimental trauma acts on young children? Is he aware of this? Maybe he was putting a stop to it and just caved in the entire lab. Who knows, right? Continuing forward, which officially has gone under the designation of Naval Ordnance Test Station. Isn't that so weird? The base was set up to test new weapons. Evidently, the Navy decided that mind control people were an important weapon to test. Most of the, in quote, new weapons created at China Lake were for the most part human robots turned out in large numbers. The Monarch mind control was carried out in large airplane hangars on the base, which have been able to house thousands of tiny cages just large enough for human babies. Lots of 1,000 babies was a small batch. According to people who worked in the hangars helping program, many batches were 2,000 or 3,000 babies. Many survivors remember the thousands of cages housing little children from ceiling to floor. The cages were hot-wired, electrified, on the ceiling, bottom and sides, so that the children who are locked inside can receive horrific electric shocks to their bodies to groom their minds to split into multiple personalities. See, guys, you think I'm crazy, but I know all about this. These cages are called woodpecker grids. The victim sees a flash of light when a high DC voltage is applied. Later, this flash of light is used with hypnotic inductions to make the person think they are going into another dimension when they are blasted with high voltage. In the Peter Pan programming, the programmers tell the slaves that this is riding the light, one of the more popular traumas. After the small child has endured the woodpecker grid cages for days, it is to rape it. The rape is unintentionally brutal so that it will be as traumatic as possible. Many of the technical people on base are civilians. This is in part because part of the research involves mind control, and Illuminati civilian mind control experts have come and gone from the base. The California Institute of Technology of Pasadena is intimately connected to China Lake's research, and by the way, to the Illuminati. Also, much of the work at the facility is for the intelligence agencies and not the military. Intelligence assets are often civilians. One of the things developed in California universities and then implemented at China Lake was color programming, which will be covered later in this book. Red and green were discovered to be the most visible colors for programming. Various colored flashing lights were used in programming at knots. Survivors of the program also remembered flashing lights. The use of flashing lights has been introduced into American culture by the CIA. If a person goes into bars and places where a band plays, you will notice multiple colored lights flashing. The flashing lights create disassociation, especially in people who are programmed. How children are transported to a major programming site, like the one at China Lake, right? A list of major programming centers is given in the appendix, along with each site programming specialities. In this chapter, an example of just one of the bases used for early programming is given: the large and the very secretive China Lake facility in California near Death Valley. The children are brought into the China Lake NWC, aka Knots, base by trains, planes, and cars. A number of small airfields which fly these children into China Lake have been identified. One, which is no longer in use for moving children, was a private airstrip at Sheridan, Oregon, which was beside a large lumber mill. The lumber mill had an agreement to secretly house the children who had their mouths taped. Neighbors in the area were bought off and warned that if they talked, they might be in trouble for broaching national security. The area has lots of mills joined by train tracks, which were used to shuttle the children around. Tied into this network was the Catholic monastery, which lies between Sheridan and McMinnville, close to the rail network. The Union train station in Portland, Oregon, has underground tunnels where children were temporarily warehoused in cages before continuing on their journey. The Jesuits were active in this part of the child procurement. Catholic adoption agencies, which are many, nuns who get pregnant, third world parents, and parents who will sell their children were all sources of children for programming. When one thinks about how many corrupt people there are and how many towns and cities are on the West Coast, how many children are produced by satanic breeders, illegal aliens, and other parents who'd rather have the money than the children, the reader begins to realize how procuring batches of 1,000 to 2,000 children was no problem for the Illuminati, working through these intelligence agencies such as the CIA, NIS, DIA, FBI, and FEMA. The founders at Joint CIA-FBI group procured children for the network for years. Some of the children needed for programming are used for sacrifices to traumatize those being programmed. The names of some of the people who work at the procuring children for programming and sacrifice have been released in Fritz Springmeier's monthly newsletter. The secret FEMA airstrip at Santa Rosa has planes landing and leaving all night. Some of these flights go east and then they land at a secret 1,800 square mile China Lake Naval Research Base and are believed to be carrying children for programming. This airstrip is called the Santa Rosa Air Center. When I tried to get FAA information on this airstrip, they played stupid, as if it didn't exist, yet it is in operation. Near Santa Rosa is the Bohemian Grove. Southwest of Santa Rosa is the Air Center, which is not used by the public. This airport was recently used by private pilots as a FBO. It was built during World War II as a training base for P-32 pilots and deactivated in 1952. After the war, it was leased to private companies such as the CIA. The paved areas are 4 feet of concrete and can land the heaviest planes in use. There are no buildings over 2 stories in that area and no control tower. The FBI has a contingent in the federal building downtown Santa Rosa, and FEMA has a radio station at that airport. The Army Reserve also has some buildings in that area. However, there is some highly secretive activity going on underground at that airport. 6 to 7 small planes sneak out of the closed base a day, and for a base of its description, that is very small. And so, guys, you can see here that this is where the microseismic intensity map hit right here, and we are right outside of exactly where this Air Force base is, this naval base, which I find quite strange. What took place there? Very weird, right? Then we can see here, this is even crazier. Vincent Kennedy posts this, and it's just dots and dashes and everything like this. Please follow this person on Twitter, Vincent Kennedy at VincentCrypt46. And this is what somebody put in. It says here, what kind of jet is that? US or is that an MiG? I do not know what an MiG is. If you do, please leave it in the description box below. But this is from the coordinates. What is this? And we'll get a better look at this. But this person right here just put in a lot of dots. And this person filled in the dots and filled in the coordinates. Very strange. Check out this craft. Look at this. Isn't that weird? That doesn't even, I don't even know. Is that some sort of like extraterrestrial craft? It doesn't look like ours. I mean, I don't know what that is. Is it Russian? Very, very strange. Here it is. This is where those coordinates pick up right here. So this person obviously knew, this Vincent person knew of the coordinates of where a downed plane went, or a downed craft rather. Could be a dart. If you don't know what a dart is, please look that up. That is a small, unidentified craft, UFO. Very small in size. And this is where it went down right here. Very close to where the earthquakes were taking place, guys. So guys, very interesting stuff. Obviously that there is something right there on the coastal shores of California? Why does the Navy have a base miles in the middle of the desert? It just doesn't add up. And I believe that this researcher has put together something phenomenal, and I wanted to share it with you. Myself, I have put together, before I depart, I have put together a montage video of a lot of underground facilities that are mind-blowing. Underground ships, we're talking barges underwater, or underground rather, that are just tucked away, 4-foot, no blast doors. It goes on and on, guys. It's a lot of pictures I wanted to show to you. So before I depart, guys, if you found this informative and you enjoyed it, please subscribe to my channel. You can follow me on Twitter at TRUreporting, and don't forget to leave a like. The more likes that this video receives, the more times it is recommended to other viewers, thus more eyes on the truth. You can donate to this channel by going to my PayPal, Patreon, or PO Box, links in the description below. TRUreporting merch has launched a couple days ago, so if you want to go by and pick up some stuff, there's a lot to choose from, a lot of great stuff there. Guys, take care of one another and love one another, and I will leave you with this video. Have a great day. Bye-bye.